Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. Papa Boris here with our first playthrough of the Dream Team 6-player Pathfinder adventure card game. In the first video, I just made the party, explained why I chose who I chose, and built their decks. That took half an hour. However, if you missed it, you can go back and watch it if you want to see how the party was made. If you skipped that because you didn't give a crap and you just want to see me play, well then you're in the right place. Let's start this party. We're going to go for the first scenario here, which is Brigandoom. I'm going to be talking a lot of strategy here, of course. Even though some people say this game is very easy, there's a lot to think about and a lot to do if you want to play well. I'm sure that I will make some mistakes. I'm sure I'm probably going to lose a scenario at some point and have to replay it. So it's a difficult game, especially if you think that this game is easy. Try managing a 6-player party all by yourself. You will forget things and you will fall flat on your face. So in this scenario, there's 8 locations, and it's actually a pretty difficult scenario. A lot of these are really kind of monster heavy, so choosing where your characters go is very important in a 6-player game. Especially here when you have to make sure that you can handle all the monster challenges. Let's go ahead and make a couple of easy decisions first. Ezrin clearly going into the Academy. The Academy was just made for Ezrin. If you encounter something other than a spell on your first exploration, you get a free exploration, and there are 5 spells in here, which for Ezrin represent very likely extra explorations. You can blow through this thing in a couple of turns with a little bit of luck. Sometimes you'll get stuck in the Academy for like 3 or 4 turns, but that's very unlikely. Not very unlikely, it's unlikely. So this is likely to be a quick close. This is where I want to start. With Brigandoom, one of the key questions you got to ask yourself is, who the fuck is going to go to the waterfront? The waterfront is what I like to call a bitchy location. There's just no good way to deal with it. If you use a weapon, you get a penalty of 1 from each die being rolled. So it's like, okay, well, I want to maybe use a spellcaster. But the closing location requires you to kill a henchman. Spellcasters don't like locations like this because it means they have to save up 2 combat spells to be able to first kill the henchman and then kill the other henchman again for the closing requirement. So nobody wants to be here. It's a tricky spot for sure. So you have a couple options. One is you can wait for Ezrin to finish closing the Academy and have him go to the waterfront because he does have a lot of combat spells. He's likely to be able to have 2. Or you can just suck it up and have somebody go here who is going to struggle with it a little bit. Mariziel's not a bad choice for the waterfront because she's actually not too bad at fighting without a weapon. I mean, she can roll a d8 plus a d6, plus 2d6, excuse me, and then Horace can shoot an arrow. So versus a bandit henchman, d8 plus 2d6 plus an arrow, she can take him down. The problem is that there are 4 monsters here, so the ones that have a difficulty higher than 8 can get a little bit scary. I'm going to go ahead and choose the route of ignoring this and hoping that maybe Ezrin will be able to take this out later on. Another easy call is the garrison. So this is a location that Sela loves because when it is closed, any unclaimed armor and weapons get shuffled into it and do not get banished and put back in the box. So that's good because if she basically scouts away a good weapon or armor, it doesn't get lost permanently. I'm going to put Amiri here as well. The reason for this is that weapon is Amiri's favorite card type, but it's not Sela's, but they both want a weapon in their hand. So if Amiri happens to get 2 weapons and Sela gets none, I'm going to pass a weapon off to her on the first turn. Similarly, if Amiri gets 1 weapon and Sela gets none, I might consider giving Sela Amiri's weapon because Amiri has more weapons in the deck, so she's likely to find a weapon sooner than Sela is. So that's just something I do in the first turn because it's, a little extra synergy that you can squeeze out of your party. Mauricio is going to go to the wooden bridge because she can succeed at the closing requirement. Obviously, she is the lady to go to for dexterity or stealth. You could also have Ezrin do it with his invisibility card, giving him a free stealth check, but why worry about that? I do want to mention one thing, though. The prison is actually a really tempting place for Mariziel to go to as well because of this ability. She can do disable late checks in place of any requirement for picking up a boon. So she's like a boon machine. She can get all the boons here very easily, especially once she gets a pair of Thieves' Tools, because she can reveal them and roll 2d8 plus 2 all day, needing to roll just a 6 on 2d12 to pick up any boon she finds. That's especially nice for these allies because they represent potential extra explorations. So I will go here with Mariziel. I'll kind of like swing over here from time to time as I find Thieves' Tools. Then we have a couple of places left. I'm going to go ahead and send Amiri, after she's done with the garrison, to the woods. She's not the best at survival. Someone will need to play a blessing on her, but then she'll be rolling a 2d6 plus 3, so she has a 35 out of 36 chance of making this closing check. And I feel like it's better than putting Linny here because Linny does not want to deal with a location that has 4 monsters and 2 barriers. So Amiri's going to go here. That means Harsk can go to the farmhouse, which has a moderate amount of monsters, and he can handle the closing location with, again, some help from his friends. So where does Linny go? Well, the waterfront is definitely not it. The prison, we're saving that for Mariziel. And then that leaves her with this treacherous cave. So this is actually a decent place for her. She's got a good survival check. It's a d10 plus 2 plus a d4 if she has an animal. And there's only 2 monsters here, so it's not actually that scary of a place. It's a pretty good place for her to go. One quick thing about the prison. So the prison has a diplomacy check to close. Mariziel is good at picking up boons here, but she's not good at closing it because her charisma is a d6. Another thing to wait for, perhaps, when you go here is not just a thieves tool, so you can pick up the boons, but for her to get that potion of glibness, so she has a way to automatically close this location when she finishes topping off the henchman that's there. Okay, so this is how we're going to start things off. Let's go ahead and begin this jam. There are other options, by the way. You can take advantage of the Woods special ability and put Sela or Harsk there and have them try to get an armor or empty their hand to have the monsters automatically banish themselves. But I find it's not that hard to just kill the monsters, so I'm just putting Amiri there kind of naively. I messed up my turn order. Whoops. And here we go. First video made a mistake. I was supposed to put Amiri first to give the card to Sela. I'll have to change this later on, and I actually don't like this turn order either. So this is actually a little bit jacked. This is the order that I selected the characters. I forgot to change the turn order at the beginning. Whoops, I really want Amiri first, but it's fine. We'll deal with it. Notice because of this mistake, yep, Amiri has 3 weapons. If I had put her first correctly, Sela would have had a weapon for this exploration, but instead she doesn't. Let's go ahead and do our crusade. So there is a mercenary coming up. So because of this, she's going to be fighting that monster without a weapon. What I'm going to do is actually hop over to the woods a little bit because she's got 2 armors. She can use an armor to essentially kill a monster here. So hopefully I find a monster and I can show you this trick. No, we find a trapped passageway. This is rough. So she doesn't have thieves tools, obviously, because she has no items. This thing is not banished if you fail to succeed at it. So you really do need to succeed at this thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a blessing. And I'm also going to discard a card from the top of her deck to really maximize my odds of succeeding at this. This does mean that Amiri's still not going to be able to give her a weapon because now Amiri's not in the same location at the start of the turn, but that's life. Okay, we thankfully, that D6 made a difference. That extra D6 made the difference there. And we get an extra exploration, which is huge. And we fight a monster. Okay, this is perfect. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to crusade. I'm not going to play a blessing. We're just going to roll this, which is very low odds of success. Perfect, we fail. So we're going to take 3 damage here. What I'm going to do, I think, is recharge one of them and just discard the other, because I don't care about armor. I'm fine with just discarding it. And because we're in the woods, this goblin warrior gets banished, even though I didn't defeat him. And now I'm actually going to play a blessing to explore again, because if I fight another monster, I don't have any cards in my hand. They're just going to punch me, nothing will happen, and then they'll go away. So I'm really hoping for a monster here, and it happens. Fantastic. So I don't care about this wisdom roll. And I certainly don't care about this combat roll. I actually almost got that bunyip, but whatever. So the bunyip just goes away because we're in the woods. So this is something I mentioned, and then I said I wasn't going to do it, and then I ended up doing it anyway because I messed up my turn order, is you can go to the woods and you have characters basically use their armor to destroy enemies by the woods location. So do not dismiss the woods location ability. It's a really good way for characters with armor or characters who can empty their hand to be profitable. Okay, so that's the end of Sela's turn. She picks up a weapon, thank goodness. Okay, so Amiri could fight this mercenary at the garrison, and she is going to do that. So Amiri and Sela kind of switch places here. The reason for this is, in a 6-player game, you really need to use your cards aggressively. Like, I could very easily just, like, ooh, throw out a long spear, you know, and then, like, have Harsk shoot an arrow and just, you know, conserve my resources. But I don't want to have all these goddamn weapons in my hand because I want to draw into my blessings and into my allies so I can get extra explorations. I don't want to be holding on to all these weapons. So I'm actually going to be very aggressive about getting rid of these weapons so that I can draw into my extra explores. Now at this point the question is, should I spend an extra resource on this fight? And this is one of the key decisions of the game is like, okay, so I have a D8, a d10 and a d12 plus 2 versus 10. I mean, how good is that? So there's a couple different ways you can think about it. There are two different tests that I personally use when I'm deciding whether or not to spend extra resources. And that's an important decision, because if you spend a resource when you don't need to, that's kind of a big deal. Let's say that like Mauricio, chooses to play her blessing here. Well, this blessing, if she hadn't played it, it would have been an extra exploration. So by playing a blessing, I'm essentially losing a turn. I mean, you don't want to do that unless it's actually significant. Harsk, of course, is a bunch of cards, and you can just happily play most of them for arrows, but eventually, he might have wanted to play a blessing this turn and explore with it instead of slinging an arrow with it. So there's two different tests I use. They're both pretty simple. One of them, of course, is to find the expected roll of your dice and see if it exceeds the target roll by 5. Let me explain. So we have a +2, which means I have to roll an 8 on these 3 dice. The expected roll of a d12 is 6.5, for a d10 is 5.5, and for a d8 is 4.5. If you're wondering how I'm getting those numbers, a shortcut way of doing it is just take the size of the die, add 1, and divide by 2. 12 plus 1 is 13, divided by 2 is 6.5. You get the idea. So 6.5 plus 4.5 is 11. 11 plus 5.5 is 16.5. So I'm beating the check by 6.5, or I need to roll an 8 on these, and I'm actually expected to roll a 16.5. That's way above the target, so this should be pretty safe. The other check that you can use is what does each die need to show in order for me to win? So typically I feel very safe about a check if each die only needs to show a 2 in order to win. Here, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 would only give me 8. But I'm likely to get the extra that I need because the average roll of these dice is so high. Again, that's 6.5 plus 4.5, which is 11, plus 5.5 is 16.5, and I only need an 8 to show on these dice. So I'm feeling pretty safe. I'm not going to use any resources, even Harsk's rechargeable arrows, just because I feel very confident. And indeed, we succeed at killing the mercenary, and I cannot explore anymore, so that's life. I could move if I wanted to, but I don't really need to move because Sila's going to be coming back to the garrison now that she has a weapon. So I'll just stay right here. It honestly doesn't make a difference where I go, so I'm just not going to do anything. There we go. We got a blessing because I aggressively buried a card, and I'm going to get an extra turn because of it. Okay, it's Mauricio's turn here at the wooden bridge. We get another mercenary. These are coming out to play. I'll reveal this, and now we have to decide how to proceed. So I'm not that likely to need a crowbar, ever, but Harsk's turn is coming up soon, so I'm not going to discard this. We'll just go ahead and recharge it, and then I will have Harsk fire an arrow. He doesn't need both a dagger and a sling, so he'll just shoot one of them, and then we're going to conserve our blessings. Again, the expected roll here is 6.5 plus 4.5, which is 11. 11 plus 2.5 is 13.5, plus another 4.5 is 18. And I'm not going to do this every single time. Sometimes you just kind of can go on instinct after a while, but this is 8 more than what I need to roll, and I feel pretty safe with it. Typically, also, the more dice that you're throwing, the less variance there is. I'm going to discard the standard bear because I'm not that likely to need its abilities, so getting an extra turn is just really valuable, and I'm going to do it. All right, we got a soldier. Now, this is kind of unfortunate because I don't have my potion of glibness, so I cannot auto-succeed at it. Does Ezran have his spell? Yes, he does. So I'm going to go ahead and play Eloquence. This improves my odds of picking up this soldier from 1 in 6 to 50%. Is it 50%? No, not 1 in 6. Actually, 2/3, which is a pretty big difference. It's like 16% versus 66%. So it dramatically increases the odds of getting an extra exploration. So if this succeeds, then Ezran essentially turned his Eloquence card into an extra exploration for the rogue, which is a good thing. Tragically, I only rolled a 2, so I failed, but it's fine. I mean, this card is probably going to get recharged, and it's not the end of the world. It's not a very valuable card anyway. All right, let's go ahead and pick up Lightning Touch. Don't forget to use Ezran's expanded spellbook when it's not his turn, because he's not going to draw cards until the end of his turn. And I am going to go ahead and play a Blessing of the Gods to keep exploring. You want to keep an eye on your blessings. You kind of want to think about how many blessings does my character have, and use maybe half of them for extra explorations, because it's just so important to get through these cards. I mean, you only have 30 turns to essentially get through 80 cards, so you really can't afford to dilly-dally. So she made it through 3 cards, Sela made it through a few cards, and Mary made it through a card. So we're not actually off to the most flying start here, but at least we did some extra explorations. All right, let's try to recharge Eloquence. I'm not going to play my Sages for this. I don't care about it that much. I happen to get it anyway. Wouldn't have really cared that much if I didn't. And we're up to the old man. So hoping with a little bit of luck I can close the academy in 1 turn. You're always hoping that your first exploration is not a spell, so you get a free extra exploration. And we got lucky here. So you can, let's see, if we defeat this, we can examine the top 3 cards of the location deck, and if one of them's a weapon, item, or blessing, we get to put one into the deck. And then the other cards go to the bottom of the location deck. The problem is the Academy doesn't have that many items, weapons, and blessings. Basically, if I get this thing, there's only a 1 in 3 chance that I'm actually going to find this item. If this deck were more concentrated with weapons, items, and or blessings, then it would actually be a much bigger deal to succeed at this check, because it would essentially give me a high chance of free explorations. Because that's not the case, I'm just going to go ahead and roll the die, fail the check. And this barrier is banished. Very important to look for that line. Not all barriers auto-banish, so always look for that line of text to make sure that you make the right call. And since it wasn't a spell, I get a free exploration. Fantastic. We get Detect Evil. Okay, so what do you do here? Well, you could just roll your d8. This is not an arcane spell, unfortunately. So I'm just rolling a d8 for wisdom with no bonuses, trying to pick it up. The problem is, if I do roll a 1, 2, or 3, which will happen 37.5% of the time, my turn is over. So I'm going to go ahead and recharge a Sage. This dramatically improves my odds of picking up Detect Evil. There is a chance that I waste the Sage, of course, if I was going to roll high enough on the d8 anyway, but I'm willing to take that risk because I just really want the extra turn here. And it turns out I would have made it without that, so that's sad, but still, I get an extra exploration. Find traps. Oh, the same thing happens. Okay, so again, this time it's a harder check. It's a 6 instead of a 4. I can use my Sage. The problem is, even with the Sage, I have to roll a 3 on both dice. That'll fail a decent amount of the time. I think, much as it pains me to say this, I don't want to use a blessing on this because I'm still too likely to fail. So we're just going to go ahead and let this one, go to the gods. Oh, had I used the Sage, I would have succeeded. Well, since I didn't use the Sage, we're just going to go ahead and, hang on, before I discard the Sage, let me do Detect Evil. Why not? Hopefully I find a monster under here. I find another Detect Evil. Okay, well, no monster. But we'll go ahead and discard the Sage for an extra exploration. It sucks that these are both, I found 3 divine spells in a row. There's actually a lot more arcane spells than divine spells, so to have all 3 of them come up like this is sort of unlucky, and to fail that roll is unlucky as well. So I could have spent somebody else's blessing, but then again, whoever would have spent their blessing on that check could have just played the blessing on their turn to give themselves an extra exploration, so it's not gaining anything to pick that up. It's not a spell that I value having. So it just sucks that we didn't find any arcane spells, which meant that I was rolling a d8 with no bonuses instead of a d12 plus 2. So a little bit unlucky here with the Academy. Also, it would have been nice to have the Codex in my hand, but alas. Anyway, we're up to Harsk. He's got some explosive runes. This is unfortunate because it's really difficult for him to beat this thing. And on top of that, he's going to take 2d4 fire damage, which, because he didn't fling any arrows, is actually going to cost him likely 4 cards. So that's a real bitch and a half. At least it's banished after being used. I can roll 2d8 for dexterity and try to hit a 10. The expected roll of 2d8 is 9, so I'm a little bit relying on luck for that. Or I can play a blessing and roll 2d6 to hit an 8, which again is a little bit below the curve. Alright, we'll switch to dexterity. I haven't actually done the math. I don't know what's actually better. We'll play a blessing because, hell, I'm going to lose all my cards anyway, so I might as well. But I'm not going to play any more blessings from anyone else. I'd rather Harsk just lose his cards then other characters give up explorations, and maybe I'll get lucky and just roll good. I did not get lucky and roll good, so we lose a card off the top, and we're going to lose the entire rest of the hand, so I'm getting some bad luck here. That's just the way of it with Pathfinder. You roll the dice so many times, there are so many random events that happen that you're going to get unlucky. So we got unlucky at the Academy, we got unlucky here at the farmhouse, that Harsk didn't have his thieves' tools on him. But at least we're lucky that the second card of the farmhouse is a bandit, so Harsk will be able to take this out potentially next turn. Okay, so Linny's got a decent hand. She's got strength and 2 inflict, so she's ready to fight some monsters, which is good. She finds a potion of healing. I don't actually like these very much. I really don't care about them. I'll just basically use it after I discard a blessing to explore. I don't like to save them up or anything. You could always just try to save them until you really need them, but it's just a pain in the ass. So here, I'd need to roll higher than a 3 on average on each die to succeed at this check. So Harsk is definitely going to shoot an arrow. He's already faced the barrier at the farmhouse, so he doesn't need these thieves' tools anymore. Those would have been nice to have a turn ago. It would have saved him a whole bunch of cards. So we'll do this. And now we have to think very carefully. So if every die came up a 2, we'd be at a 9. So I do have to get some extra value out of these dice, plus 2 of them are d4s. So it's looking a little scary. Counting by expected value, we're looking at 5 for the d4s, 8.5. 8.5 plus 5.5 is 14. This is only 3 above the check. Typically you have to be 5 and above to be safe. So I'm going to go ahead and just be a little bit safe, I think. I hate to play a blessing on this, but I feel like it's better than losing the combat check and having the plague zombie go back into the deck. So obviously adding an extra d10 solves all of our problems. It turned out not to make a difference, but I'm happy with that choice. I think you just have to choose very carefully in this game where to play it safe and where to take a little risk, and I don't think it was worth it to take a risk there. Now I'm going to pop this potion just to get the blessing back. And I'm going to play strength on myself just in case I find another monster. And I'm going to recharge with this crow. So I'm hoping I don't find any monsters or anything. Actually, I have inflict, so I probably didn't need to play the strength. But I basically want to get the strength just out of my hand, since when you use one of your animal allies to explore, you want to find another one as soon as possible. In fact, I'm even going to discard the superior half plate, just to really maximize my odds of getting back an animal ally. You can willingly discard cards at the end of your turn, so I will do that. And hopefully one of my next 4 cards is an animal. It's not. Alright, well at least I got caltrops. That's good, so I can kill some things if I find them. Hey, alright, so Celia encounters a bandit here. She's not bad at wisdom survival. It is a d8, and she can do this for a d8 plus 6, but I'd rather, like, have Linny come over at some point and take care of it, or have Amiri come over. The risk of keeping a henchman at the top of a deck is that if somebody else finds the villain, and you're not there to temp close the location, the villain will get shuffled in here, or a villain or a blessing will get shuffled in here, and you're going to lose that information. So the longer that you don't deal with it, the worse things get. However, Amiri is the next character up, and she's way better at survival than Sela is, so I'm going to have Sela go back to the garrison, which is where she was supposed to be in the first place, and have her proceed with her adventures there, and then Amiri will come and close the woods. So as long as Sela's next card isn't a villain, I'm fine. And we'll go ahead and play a blessing. I do want to get extra explorations. Oh my god, this is just the worst thing. So, each character... Wait a minute, what am I doing? Oh my god, I made a huge mistake. I'm really sorry, folks. I forgot about this. If you encounter a monster other than a villain or a henchman, each other character at the location also encounters it. So I really should have moved Amiri out of here, because if I had planned ahead, I would have known that Sela was coming back. So now, both characters at the location have to lose a card before and after the encounter, which is just horrifically bad. At least it's a very easy check. It's just a d8. Or it's an 8 check, so it's easy to kill, but there really is no reason for Amiri to be losing all her cards here. Luckily, they're just weapons that she was going to give up anyway, but damn. Okay, so I'm losing both of these cards. So let's discard the blessing here, and I'm just going to discard the mace like this, so that there's nothing left in my hand to discard after the enchanter dies. Shoot, that was bad. That was bad play. Amiri should not have been there. Definitely shouldn't have been there. But at least we got to sift through the deck and I found another weapon, so hooray. Okay, so Amiri now will go back to the woods and take out the bandit henchman who is here. She has to recharge a card. We'll obviously keep the weapon. And I'm fine with discarding this spear if I fail the check and I need to reroll it. I don't think Harsk really needs to reroll his cards, so we'll just leave it the way it is and roll. And we kill the bandit anyhow. Perfect. So because I got a blessing, we're going to go ahead and just play the one I got. Otherwise, I would have had somebody else play a blessing. Only a 1 in 36 chance of failing this. I'd have to roll snake eyes to fail. All right, so the wood's closed. I think that's my first close. 8 turns into the game. It's not as good as I'd like for things to be going. But, you know, it could be worse. I'm going to go ahead and move her, just so that in case somebody finds the villain, she can, you know, temp close a location. Oh boy, where does she go? The waterfront? Alright, she'll brave the waterfront, even though she's taking a penalty on her die rolls there when she uses weapons. Okay, so you don't have your potion of glibness yet, so you don't want to go to the prison. So we'll stay at the wooden bridge. I could pop a potion of fortitude to pick up this guard. The problem is guards cannot be discarded for extra exploration, so I don't really care about the guard. Of course I picked him up. So I could discard my troubadour, to explore again. The problem is that I kind of would like to have the Troubadour for this Dexterity or Stealth 6 check, so instead I'm just going to get rid of this Potion of Fortitude because I just don't need it. And then we're going to pass the turn. All right, Ezrin, have some better luck here, would you? Oh my god, another Divine Spell. That's ridiculous. Well, at least we have a Codex this time. So I'm trying to convert my item into an extra exploration, and it worked. We'll see if we can recharge it. There's a 50% chance that the Codex mattered on that one, because one of my dice was an 8 and one was a 5. Let's go ahead and explore, because we picked up a spell. Aha, so Acid Arrow is cool. In the card game, it's actually mechanically equivalent to the basic spells, which always bugged me, like why is an elite spell the same thing? But here, the designers of the game decided to make a change. So Acid Arrow is actually a little different. It's an Arcane plus a D10 plus 1 instead of Arcane plus 2D4. There's a 1 in 12 chance that I fail this, but I'm not going to spend any blessings to guarantee it, because I think at this point that would just be a little bit foolhardy. We pick it up, we get to explore again, we find an Ogre. Well, let's go ahead and use my newly acquired Acid Arrow against this guy. Harsk definitely needs to shoot an arrow at this because it's a tough one. In fact, we might want to play a Blessing on it. Let's take a quick look here. So, yeah, I need to roll an 11 on these 3 dice, so they have to roll higher than a 3 each. It'd be a little bit foolhardy for me not to play a Blessing here. So Harsk will contribute a Blessing. And in fact, there's a 50% chance that that made the difference, so hooray. Let's try to recharge the Acid Arrow. And unfortunately, I don't get an extra exploration out of it, so Ezrin took 2 turns here and did not successfully close the Academy, which is kind of sad. All the spells in the Academy were junk. But the good news is that there's 3 cards left, and you'll notice none of them are spells, so I'm guaranteed to get an extra exploration. So I have a 2/3 chance of finding a Bandit Henchman next turn and closing this thing. So it took 3 turns to close it, which, considering locations have, 10 cards in them, it's not that bad. So the question is, do I want Harsk to be the one to kill this Bandit Henchman and then fight a random monster? Not really. I don't particularly like that. Where else can I go? I can go to the prison, although I lost my Potion of Glibness, so I'm in danger of failing to be able to close it if I go there. The problem is he just only has the 1 weapon, so he'd have to hold back against the bandit and just go for a D8 plus a D4 plus 3. Just a little risky. And then he'd have to kill a random monster. He's not the best at killing random monsters. Okay, well, what I'm going to do, I guess, is join her over here. His wisdom is, or his survival is okay. He has a survival skill, so if he finds the henchman, so be it. If not, then it's fine. Alright, so he picks up a bow. And will I explore again? Sure. He's here with the druid, so the druid can heal him if necessary. Oh, this isn't good. So I really need to succeed at this. So, yeah, someone's going to play a Blessing. I guess it'll be a Miri. And I just hope I roll a 5 on these 2d6. I could have played another Blessing to secure it, but that would have been giving up 2 extra explorations. I feel like that would have been harsh. Luckily, I just barely made it, so I get a free exploration. And luckily, I'm still not fighting the Bandit Henchman. I don't want to be the one to find him, or Harsk doesn't want to be, because his survival is not as good as Linny's. And now we get to Scout. So there's a shadow here, which is good to know because this requires the magic trait, so it needs to be someone who's using a spell. And I think Linny still has an inflict, so it's fine. We'll have her inflict her way through this. There is, of course, a problem, which is that she doesn't have an animal here, so she has to play a Blessing to secure this. In fact, she could still fail this pretty easily. Oh my god. Alright, so I failed by 1, so I have to lose a card. I have to lose a Blessing because it's a shadow. So perhaps I should have had somebody play a Blessing. And the fact that I didn't have an animal really hurt me there, because if I had that extra D4, I would have succeeded on the check. So that was a bit of bad luck that there was a shadow, and that I missed by 1. So I could very well lose this scenario now. Let's go ahead and discard the Blessing for an extra exploration. Just try to maximize my odds of finding an animal, and also finding a Cure Spell, which she and Harsk could both use. No animal and no Cure Spell. Alright, fantastic. Seela's actually also dying a little bit. She's been pitching lots of cards. Has she lost her Cure Spell? No, her Cure Spell's at least still in the deck. So she's got that still left to find. Okay, let's go ahead and recharge our armor. Alright. I don't want to use her Crusade because I don't want to lose Cure. And plus I don't want to lose cards in general. So we'll have Harsk get rid of some armor that he doesn't need. to secure this check. Each die only needs to show a 2, which is pretty good, except if you roll a 7. Okay, that's actually a really, really bad fail, because not only do I lose a card now, but the bandit gets shuffled in there, so now there's, you know, a location with 7 cards in it, where previously, where if I had succeeded, it should have been a location that was closed. So that was actually really, really bad. I mean, maybe I should have played a blessing on it, but both the expected roll of those dice and the number necessary per die was pretty high. So I feel like I made a pretty reasonable choice there. But because of poor luck, we are in bad shape. We're in very bad shape here, actually. This is going to need... Basically, what's going to have to happen is someone's going to have to find a villain, and I'm going to have to pull off some heroics in order to successfully corner the villain, basically. And hopefully there's some henchmen near the top of their respective locations that I can use, or that I can use to close locations quickly. Here we're getting a little bit lucky. Okay, so this is actually pretty good. Now I have to make a choice. I mean, I could reveal the spear and get a -2 penalty per die. I think with the reroll, that's probably worth it. So we'll try it like this and re-roll if necessary. All right, we basically made it. That's good. Now we have to do the exact same thing again. So let's recharge away the blessing. All right, this time since I have 2 spears, I don't need them both, we're going to go ahead and get an extra d10. Also, it's more important now that I be able to close this place because, of course, if I don't close it, then I have to dig through a lot more cards to be able to try to close it again. Okay, we got the close on the waterfront. So at this point, basically the limiting reagent is going to be my ability to find the villain. Oh, the waterfront's extra bitchy because at the end of the, when it's closed, everybody there has to discard a card. So Miri's actually kind of hurting as well. Is there any place I can put her that's relevant? Let's stick her to the farmhouse because that's where she's planning to do next. Oh wait, wasn't I supposed to go there? Oh god, I totally forgot. My plan was to go here and kill the monster. Whoops, forgot about that, sorry. Alright, so Amiri has 3 cards left in her deck. Sela has 4. Her cure rolled like a minimum amount and then failed to get recharged. So we got some really, really hurting characters. And on top of that, we also have a lot to go through to be able to close this place out. So it's looking pretty rough. Luckily, I picked up a blessing. Let's just discard it right away for an extra exploration. Acolytes, I hate these allies. You cannot discard them to explore again. Of course, I successfully pick it up, though I don't want it. I am just going to discard it again and pass the turn. Azarin still hasn't closed the academy. Bracer Protection, it's a magic item, so he does get an extra exploration, but an important rule is that extra explorations don't stack. So I don't get that and the extra exploration for it not being a spell, so it's actually kind of unlucky. It would have been much better if the bracers had been later on. Okay, do I have my invisibility? Please tell me I have invisibility. Actually, can I even see what cards I have? Uh-oh, I really hope the game lets me see what cards I have, because if I have invisibility, I want to evade and keep him there. If I don't have invisibility, then I really need to try to close off those locations. I don't want to spend resources closing locations, so we're just going to hope that I have invisibility in my hand, and I do, thank God. Alright, so I can use invisibility, then he would be one of the 2 cards in the location. But the thing is, it's the academy. What that means is that whether... when I'm exploring this place, whether I find the ally or him, it doesn't make a difference. I'm going to fight him. If he's on top, I fight him. If I find the ally, then whether I pick up the ally or not, I get an extra exploration, and then I still fight him. So I know where he is. I don't need to use Sanctuary to put him on top of the deck. Sanctuary is not a valuable spell. If I use this, it's going to get banished because it's not a divine spell. So I guess we'll go ahead and use it because invisibility, I mean, that could be used to close the wooden bridge, and it's just more useful in general. So we're going to go ahead and put him on top of the deck. So now we have a shot. That was a little bit of a lucky break after a whole lot of bad luck. Now I know where the villain is. So now I can take my time and set up a situation using the remaining time I have to close as many locations as I can. And then for whatever locations remain, I can try to set up a net. So how many blessings are left here? We actually do not have any blessings left. There's 1 blessing that Sela has, and that's it. So this is bad. Harsk, if he finds the henchman here, it's bad because he has to make Wisdom or Survival 7, which means I have to use the remaining blessing to try to make that check. Well, we'll take my chances, I guess. And there it is. All right. Well, I suppose I had that coming. Let's recharge this dagger. Hopefully don't fail this thing. Just barely got it. Good. Sela, is she actually going to die when she plays this blessing? She will, yeah, it's not great. All right, we got to go for it, though. Got to try it. Hopefully hey, can you use your survival? Asshole, thank you. I need to roll a 5 on these 2 dice. Please don't be stupid. Oh, that was really stupid. Okay, so now, because the henchman is gone, what basically needs to happen is we need to explore through the rest of the location and then close it when the location is empty. So the next card is that stupid shadow. Let's try this again. Unfortunately, no one has any blessings now, so I have to, oh my god, I have to roll incredibly good to be able to beat this thing. Oh, this is terrible. Alright, this is just like a hero roll right here. Yeah, there was really no way that I could successfully do that. Shit, this is just bad. So, the shadow is still in there. That shadow is just like ruining my life. Oh man, if only I'd had another blessing, I totally would have played it. I guess the moral of the story is Harsk shouldn't have explored. He should have just, he really should have just not explored and let Lenny take care of the closing. Okay, so Sela's still slogging through this goddamn garrison. Burglar, I don't really care about. And do I dare discard my sage for an extra exploration? Oh, I have to discard the weapon because I failed to pick him up. Nice. Well, I definitely don't want to use the sage now. So this is really bad. This is a bad situation. Amiri here, also in very dire straits. Alright, fighting off a bandit. Harsk. Shoot an arrow, please. Alright, so we succeed at this at least. And we got a zombie. Thankfully, it's not a monster that requires a magic check to defeat. Harsk, shoot another arrow, please. You don't need your armor. You're fine. So we'll roll those dice. So the farmhouse is closed, and so now my characters are in really rough shape, but I have a chance to still win this. Weirdly, the prologue is like one of the hardest set of scenarios because like everything is so monster heavy in this first scenario. It's just difficult to get everything to work. Okay, so the question is, who's going to be closing the prison? This is a rough one. It's Charisma or Diplomacy 6. That's a difficult one to close. Harsk. Does Harsk still have his potion of glibness? No, I guess Harsk lost it. Does Mauricio still have her potion of glibness? She does still have it in her deck, so she could go over there and she could close it. Ezrin can close the wooden... Oops, I did not mean to move a Mary there. Ezrin can close the wooden bridge because he has invisibility, which will give him an auto-succeed on stealth. This is actually really bad that I moved Amiri here because now Mauricio can't use sneak attack. So we'll take her for a jaunt to the prison. She has a troubadour, so if she has to make the closing check, it's not the end of the world. Alright, Traitor makes you discard an ally. Thankfully, I lost the guard and not the worthless guard and not my troubadour. Let's recharge. Actually, I don't need both crossbows. Let's just discard this thing to really secure the kill. Ezrin, can you afford to give anything up? Yeah, you don't need these thieves' tools. So that's a lot of dice. We should be fine here. And I'm not gonna use my troubadour because the troubadour is gonna be important for that closing requirement. So I'll just pass the turn. Didn't get the potion of glibness, unfortunately. All right, so Ezrin is gonna be trying to close the bridge. Hopefully we find a bandit henchman here. That'd be nice to get it done in advance. Oh, Jesus Christ. The Siren. This is the most dreaded monster of them all. So basically, if I use my invisibility to evade her, I don't have the guaranteed location closing. So I'm just going to take my chances. Honestly, I have to play a blessing on this because otherwise I might just take too much damage, which is really, really shitty. I hate having to spend a blessing here. We'll spend Mauricio's blessing because she wants to draw more cards to try to find that potion of glibness. Hopefully I get a good roll here. All right, that's barely enough. So the Siren is not a combat check. It's just a straight up wisdom check. So it's like really shitty because you can't use your weapons and stuff. All right, Harsk. Shit, Harsk is stuck here. The treacherous cave, if you want to leave the cave, you have to succeed at a survival check. I definitely don't want to explore here because if I do, I might find that stupid shadow. So I'm just going to end the turn here. He didn't really have anywhere good to go anyway. He can just sit here and fire his arrows. All right, so now we know that there's a safe card here, so we're going to go ahead and try to pick it up. Yes, we can roll. Let's roll. Thank you. Oh man, this fire effect is causing a lot of lag. Let me see if I can turn that off. Settings. No effects. Thank you. Yes, I don't need my deck to be on fire to remind me of how bad things are going. And now I know what this last card is. It's the Damned Shadow. Do I dare try to kill it with Inflict to close the Treacherous Cave? I don't know how much value there is to that. I can just sit here and temp close it. So let's see what the last card of my deck is. It's a Crow. I don't really need it. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and, let me see. What is this? Oh, okay. So we'll just leave it alone. I'm going to cast Cure on myself, because I do have just one card left in my deck. So, yeah, could I have played this better? Definitely. But I hope this has showed that even with someone who's pretty strategic and knows the game, you know, it's not easy when you have to control 6 characters all by yourself. It's definitely a bit of a challenge. And I'm not going to explore this cave. So, basically, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get ready for closing. I need to be able to make a survival check. So I need 1 animal, but I don't need 2. I don't need the combat anymore. I don't need the star knife. I just want to try to get as many blessings as possible to help my allies do shit. All right, Sela has 1 more chance to actually close this location. But it doesn't really matter. She's going to be here to temp close it. No, by the way, I should mention, there's only 5 turns left, so this is everybody's last turn. So it almost doesn't matter if she closes it now, because she's just going to be temp closing it. But the advantage of closing it now is that if she does manage to close it now, then she doesn't have to worry about spending resources to make the temp close check. What's the last card? It's a blessing, which means I can actually use her Crusade ability freely, since, you know, it's guaranteed that this card is a blessing, and it's going to stay in the deck. We get a Superior Half-Plate, which isn't that big of a deal. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to go down to the wire. Well, actually, hang on a second. Do I want to do that? She's going to be fighting a Bandit Henchman, with the combat difficulty increased by 2. So it's like, maybe I want to just keep the blessing in the deck so I can use my D6 power. Yeah, that seems smart. We'll go ahead and just discard a chainmail, but I'll keep the blessing in there. Okay, so now let's take a quick look at the map, shall we? So Ezrin's in place, ready to close. Sela's ready to close. Linny's ready to close. Mariziel's the weak spot. She's the weakest link because she didn't find her potion. So she's going to have to basically play a blessing and use a troubadour and roll 3d6 trying to get a charisma or a charisma 6 check. I think that's what it's come down to, though, because if Amiri doesn't go to the academy and fight the villain now, who is going to go there and fight the villain? Linny could, but then that leaves Harsk to fight in the cave. Harsk could try, but he has to make a survival 7 check in order to leave the cave. I think the time has come for the final showdown. It's not 100% certain that I'm going to make it, but we'll give it our best shot. We're all battered and bruised, but here goes. So there's the villain right on top, and now let's go ahead and make our closing checks. We're going to start with Sela's. Just hoping nothing terrible happens. Oh my god, I totally forgot about this. Oh wow, so it's really good that I didn't discard a card, because now I recharge an armor and I pick up a blessing, which is great. At this point, nothing that she does really matters, so we just need to make sure that we get this check. I'm going to go ahead and let Harsk save his arrows. Actually, what does Harsk have? Yeah, we'll just do this, just to absolutely guarantee it. She doesn't need this card. It doesn't make any difference. So she discards her last card. She's not going to play a blessing, though, because that's going to be useful for other people. Harsk recharge his armor, and this is almost a guaranteed thing. Every die would have to roll a 1 for that to have failed. Okay, so that succeeds. The next scariest one is Mariziel. So Mariziel, she recharges her troubadour, but now she needs to get some help. And the question is, can I afford to play another blessing on her? The answer is yes, I absolutely can. I really want to make sure that this goes well. Okay, I guess any 2 of those dice would have succeeded, so it was safe, but that really needed to get closed. And then Linny is also going to play a blessing on herself. The top blessing right now is Blessing of Shellen, which is 2 dice to a non-combat wisdom check, so she's going to use a blessing to get this, which is, again, almost guaranteed. Thank God those 7s weren't 1s, or that actually would have been a failure. And then Ezrin gets to use invisibility here to succeed at the stealth check automatically. So invisibility really helped out a lot there. First, that stupid evasion card he picked up at the academy let him keep Jubrail Visky on top, which let him save invisibility, which let him use invisibility here. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Oh, right, yeah, doesn't help. Okay, so unfortunately, neither Ezrin nor Linny found their strength spells, so Amiri is going to have to do this on her own. Let's recharge away the allies. Oh yeah, so his ability is before you actually charge 2 cards, but it's not a big deal because of the scenario effect that when you recharge cards to a monster's power, you immediately draw replacements, and his combat check's only a 10, so he's honestly not that hard of a villain. The hardest part's just, finding him. So we're going to go balls to the walls here. We're going to discard the longsword, bury the thieves' tools, play a blessing, Ezrin shoots an arrow, or Harsk shoots an arrow, and that's all I can do. It's very difficult to fail this. Luckily, nothing terrible happens, and we succeed. So, could I have played that better? Yes. Judge me all you like. I mean, I definitely could have played better. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed learning from my mistakes, and I certainly enjoyed the fact that I ended up winning. So now we get to do the post-scenario rewards. The reward for this scenario is pretty shitty. Everybody gets a random item. That thing's junk. And that thing's junk. And that thing's junk. And there's a good one. Okay, there's a few good items. Spyglass is one of them. Masterwork tools are good. Other than that, yeah, that's junk. The items are almost all total crap in the base set. And, oh, more Boots of Elvenkind. Fan-fiddly friggin-tastic. Okay, so those are pretty crappy, but we did get a Spyglass, which is good. I definitely don't want to trash talk the Spyglass. So at the end of a scenario, you have to basically build your deck back to the starting requirements. So, like, Sela found an extra armor, but, she has to throw away one of her armors because she can only have 3. She found an item at the end of the scenario, but she can't have any items, so she has to give it up. All right, so we got Eyes of the Eagle. Perception, it just doesn't come up very often. And Stealth doesn't come up very often. Acrobatics, it actually wouldn't be bad if these said, if you could recharge these to succeed at your acrobatics check, because acrobatics is one of those checks that comes up every now and then. It's like, make an acrobatics check or bullshit happens. But here, it's just adding a die to your acrobatics check. So it's like, if you don't have the acrobatics skill, it's only adding an extra d4, and you're rolling a d4 to start with. It's just shitty. And then the soldier, I don't like these soldiers. They're elite, they're not basic. But I'd honestly rather get a d6 to non-combat checks than a d4 to a melee check, because Amiri's really good at melee already. Guard and Acolyte are crappy. We got a nice fancy Blessing. This is 2 dice to combat strength checks, so it'll be nice to have. And Potion of Healing isn't great, but you know what? Potion of Fortitude is even worse, so we'll just keep the Potion of Healing. Braces of Protection are crap. And Spyglass. So to whom do you give the Spyglass? You really want to give Spyglass, and I'll show you what this is. You really want to give Spyglass to somebody who doesn't have a good way to get rid of their cards in hand, because when they get it, they can just use it. So Ezrin's actually a really good candidate for the Spyglass. I'm going to get rid of one of these codexes because the Academy's not coming back for a while, and when there's no Academy, codexes aren't that good. So we'll just keep the Spyglass. And we're going to get rid of our Force Missile in order to have an Acid Arrow that we found. All right, Magic Half-Plate. Let's go ahead and give one of those to Sela. So the nice thing about the Magic Armor is that you can recharge them when you reset your hand. Normal armors, you can discard them when you reset your hand, but magic ones, if you're proficient, you can recharge them. Since Sela is the only one who's proficient with heavy armor, she's the only one who can do that with the half-plate. That's why I gave it to her. Ghostly Form is crap. That lets you evade barriers. Short Bow is crap. Star Knife. This is a really good card for Valeros the Warrior. Valeros is not in the game, so this thing's pretty bad. I'm not going to give it to anybody. And Superior Half-Plates. Alright, well, Sela is decked out in superior stuff. This is not magical, so it cannot be recharged, and it's honestly not that much better than a regular half-plate, but it is much better than chainmail, so we'll keep it. When you're finished in the digital version and in the real version, I recommend looking at the pool of cards that aren't taken and just making sure you're not missing anything good. Here, there's nothing that I am missing, so that is that. Thank you so much, folks, for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe if you did, and we'll be back soon for the Poison Pill. Till next time, everybody.